happening, right, in housing justice and housing movement. We keep seeing, and I talk about this, the New World Order, I define it. We need to see the people who have been leading this work for 30 plus years and we haven't seen any change are mostly white folks. And it is time for white people to move out of the way and let other people lead this work. And I'm going to say this. I don't have a problem saying this. I know I can say this on Igniting Change because that's exactly what, your work is about. We would not see what is happening right now with this 2024 election. Right? We had to have an old white man say to himself, he can't be in this space anymore. And you look what it took, right, for him to do that. He had to move out of the way. And we should have never even been in that space in the first place. If he had thought about this a year ago and said, I don't need to do this. I shouldn't be in this space. It's time for new leadership. So when you ask, why is this happening, in nonprofit world, if you are looking at our leadership world, right, the president of the United States is not doing this, that lets you know, right, that this kind of culture is steeped, right, in the patriarchal, the white supremacy, the racism is steeped in a nonprofit so-called social justice work. And so when you ask why aren't they moving out the way, let's ask Joe Biden, why did you think you should run? Why did we have to get this space to then move you out and then put in new blood, right, which happens to be, right, a person of color, a woman of color, right, a South Asian and Black woman to come into this space and create hope. If that's not a good example and enough example for these folks who are saying they're about making change, and specifically in the disability rights movement, then I don't know what else is. So when you ask why hasn't it happened, when you are the power structure, when you create when meetings are, how meetings are, who can attend those meetings, when you are the power structure and you are not allowing others in, that's how you get this. That's how we, as a country, got what we got with the DNC a couple of weeks ago.
Woo! And I wish, Daryl, that we just had so much more time because and you're going to have to come back, Dara, because we got to talk more and more about this. Because, during that whole, Black Lives Matter, at the peak of the movement, I was one of the people out there yelling and screaming about why aren't people not only not talking about Black women being shot and killed by police, but I also was saying, where is the disability community? Why aren't they talking about this really severe, police targeting of Black disabled? And how many people, shooting and killing people here in D.C. even who were in wheelchairs, Los Angeles. I mean, you look around the country, even back in Ferguson, you see all of these killings of, Black disabled people. And you point out in your book that when there's finally a panel, it's about a white person.
White person.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the racism, that undergirds our society is so extreme. Daryl, as we go into...
And you're absolutely right on top of that, Barbara, with regards to the points of her book that she's pointing out, the racism. And, I can only encourage people to get the book and to read it because what you write about when you're talking about the coalition of citizens with disability, and they're having this big meeting at the Barbara Jordan Center. And no one that goes up on the stage has a physical disability. No one knows who Barbara Jordan is or her significance. And that goes directly into what you're saying, that they're just disconnected or don't care about the African American experience and its significance. And that it is important, that there is a place for it. There's a reason that they should be at the table, that we should be at the table in those conversations. Absolutely.
Dara, at the end of your book, you have 3 recommendations. Tell our audience, someone's going to be shocked, but tell them what your 3 recommendations are to change this around.
Yeah, sure. Just like I said, I wanted people to have hope. And so the ending of the book is 3 recommendations. The first is truth and reparations. We need to sit down and have these serious conversations as I'm having right now, as many people are trying to have around the country, and being honest about what's going on. And then reparations. It used to be truth and reconciliation. I don't need to reconcile with you. I need my reparations. And that, right, we need to change that, right? So we're moving that. The second is funding, which comes in the space of reparations, right? Being genuine in the funding and stop doing what we call the dance for the finance, where these people will write RFPs, which are requests for funding, and use our terminology. We're going to address racial justice, and we're going to address equity, and we're going to address racism, and they have all white folks sitting there and no one doing that. That's called the dance. They get the money, where the groups who are actually trying to do this change, ignite change, don't get the funding. So stop giving the funding to those people. And the last one is believe in Black people. Believe in Black people who love Black people. Let me be very clear about that. That's the creation of multiple national disability justice organizations need to be created and funded. They need to be led by Black folks, by BIPOC folks, at least for the first 25 years. And everybody who works there and everybody on the board need to be Black and BIPOC folks. And so those are some of the suggestions I put forward. I also just want to give a great shout out to my publisher, which is Beacon Press. Beacon Press is the publisher of James Baldwin, the publisher of Reverend Barber, the publisher of Charlene Carruthers, founder of BYP 100.
Oh, yeah.
So please get my book. I will be out and around some places around the country starting in the fall. I took off August as most people aren't traveling. People are traveling to and see what's happening. And I really want to engage people around disability justice and what that means for our community. And especially in this upcoming election, we need to make sure that this Black disabled folks, BIPOC disabled people are not only able to register to vote and vote, but also are thinking about becoming candidates, right, themselves, right, and engaging in the political process. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just about, voting rights is not just about casting your vote. Voting rights is a 360 encompassing of many different things. And in my book, To Be a Problem, A Black Woman's Survival in the Racist Disability Rights Movement, it engages in that and helps people to understand and put that forward and put black and brown, but specifically Black disabled bodies at the forefront. And the last thing I also want to say is, thank you, Barbara, thank you, Daryl, for the great work you do around the country around voting rights and around our children, our youth voting, as well as all people voting. But it has been a pleasure and an honor to do that work with you. And we need to start understanding that it's not just us, right, who's going to get this vote. It's the plus, right? And I've written this, and I'll send it to you, Barb. But that plus group, right, we need to make sure we engage the formerly incarcerated. They do have the right to vote in some states. Please look this up and help those formerly incarcerated to know you have the right to register to vote and cast a vote. We have two states. We have two states where people who are incarcerated can vote, right? Then we also need to know people who are in jail are not adjudicated and they can vote. And so if you are in a county or a city where you can go into your local jail and register people to vote, bring them absentee ballots, please do. People who are becoming United States citizens, that happens once a month around the country. Make sure that they get their citizenship and at the same time they get their registration to vote and their ballot to vote, right? And the last group of our foster kids, our foster care children, you have the right to register to vote in this country until November 5th, that actual morning, if you turn 18. And if you are a foster youth and out there, and we need our principals in the schools and people who work with you to ask and say, are you turning 18? Do you need help to register to vote? That's the plus that is going to get us over. So I'm going to stop there.
Dara, how do people get in touch with you? How do they get in touch with you? And everybody, please buy this book. It's so rich. You're going to learn so much. I'm telling you, it's an amazing book. To Be a Problem, A Black Woman's Survival in the Racist Disability Rights Movement. How do people get in touch with you, Dara?
Thank you. Yeah, the book is available in all places, Amazon. Please buy from independent bookstores. But you can find me at NJDC07 on X, Threads, or Instagram. That's at NJDC07. That's New Jersey to DC in '07. And you can find me on those things, DM me, or, just reach out to me on those platforms.
Oh, Dara, you are a gift to this society. Thank you for your amazing, bold leadership. This book adds a whole new dimension to your impact. You watch, what you say, 5 presidents, sign over 25 bills that you worked on. I mean, just thank you for everything, and thanks for elevating this conversation, because this is not just a conversation for the disability rights community. It's a conversation for the civil rights community. It's a conversation for every possible leadership movement entity out there. Let's make sure we do this. Let's be intersectional. Let's stop this intersectional failure. Let's do this. Thank you, Dara. We just love you. And our new training is coming up, Dara. September the 11th through the 13th. We'll be training our next class. You got to come forward.
And I'll be there. You'll be at the CDC here in DC. I'll be there, baby, whatever you need. And thank you. And everyone out there, peace and blessings and best of wishes in everything you're doing.
All right. Take care now.
Thank you, baby.
Okay. Daryl, you want to bring up the second part of the show?
Oh, sure, Barbara. We're really pleased to have with us. We talked about what happened at the DNC previously, but we wanted to go a little more deeply into talking about, what the impressions were of people that were there and things that they experienced. And we have with us Dr. Karen McRae, and Dr. McRae heads up the National Coalition of Black Men. We also have with us Drake Smith, who's a student at Lincoln University. And we also have with us Edward Ward, who actually worked the floor at the DNC. Both Edward and Drake are both TJC alumni, and just phenomenal work that they're doing on the ground in their areas, both in Chicago and in the Philadelphia, Maryland area for Drake Smith. So, Karen, are you there?
I'm here. How you doing, Daryl? Hello. I'm here.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. So Karen, how is this convention different than what you experienced or expected?
The camaraderie, the pure excitement, exhilaration, joy, the interconnectedness of we have more in common than we do that divides us, with the incorporation of independents, appeals to them, former Republicans, appeals to them, and incorporation of them into the program. It was a wonderful display of humanity that had not, and this is my fifth Democratic convention, and I had not had that sense before. So I was really completely outdone with the excellence that was demonstrated this round. It was wonderful.
Wow. And Edward, the same question for you. You were on the floor. You had as close a first-hand look as you can get being on the floor of this convention. What was the experience like? And you saw all these Black women in leadership roles that all came out of Rainbow Push Coalition.
There you go.
What was the experience like?
That's right.
Yeah, I tell you, it was absolutely impactful. Really, not only seeing, as you talk about, all of those Black women in leadership roles, but to know that they're supporting Black women to lead the Democratic ticket. I thought it was absolutely powerful, but also I think it's interesting to hear what happens on the outside when folks are questioning the qualifications of Kamala Harris. And it's like it's the same old thing that you hear over and over again, that Black women have to work 10 times as hard to get to a position of power because folks don't believe they are actually qualified to get the job done. But I'm like, if we run down Kamala Harris's record, and then those who she also represented, much of her sorority was there, but if we run down her record and see that she's actually overqualified for the position of president, not just because she's vice president of the United States, or that she was senator of California, or the attorney general of California, but she also served as district attorney of San Francisco. She also stood as a strong advocate for civil rights and social justice. But we can't even forget her legal background in education. So she has has multiple points of experience and qualifications, but because she is a woman of color, she was seen and is seen by the opposite or by the opposition as not being qualified enough. So seeing folks who are on the floor of the DNC working behind the scenes because they are genuinely hopeful, I think that's something that's absolutely powerful. And then those of us who volunteered all 4 days working 12 and 13 hours per day